Yes, they fit me. They didn't fit me before. Now I just have to fix this. Um, well, I was saying about the hurricane and the empathy and whatnot. So it took me 30 hours. 33, no, more than 30, I think. It was, it felt like a week to come home through to the border with the United States. I was living in Holland, and the only flight that was available was one that had like 3 stops, and then I had to take an extra flight. So I had to go to Iceland, and then from Iceland to New York, and then from New York to Houston, and then to Houston to El Paso. And it sounded like a good idea at the moment. Which is like, well, I just have to stop and then go to security and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. It really wasn't, because I was moving back home, which meant that I had a lot of shit with me. And the first flight was okay. Like, going to Iceland was fine. I had to stay at the airport. It was my first time staying at an airport. And it was an experience. I had never been to Iceland before. But technically, I still haven't. But I saw a lot of the stuff, like the touristic stuff that they were promoting, and it looked really nice. So maybe one day I will go visit Iceland. Then I had to go to New York, and I was really, really worried going to New York. Yeah, low key, because of security issues. I thought it looked weird, like a teeny tiny Mexican girl coming from Amsterdam going back to Mexico. Taking this really weird path home. So I was a bit concerned. I was like, oh, they're so gonna search me? They didn't. They were super, super nice in customs. But my issue was that I had to run, because I had 2 hours once I got to New York to make it to the plane to Houston. And I had to go to customs and then security and then whatnot. And I made it. I barely made it. It took me 2 hours to get to the gate, only to find out that the flight got delayed. 2 hours. And this is where everything went wrong in my journey home. You see, the last connection that I had was New York to Houston, and then I had another completely different flight from Houston to El Paso. And I bought it with 5 hours of difference. This means that once I got to Houston, I had 5 hours to make it to the other plane. And I thought it was a lot of time, because I was like, oh, well, I will take 2 hours to go through security. And I found out that I was going to land in a different airport. Like, I was going to arrive at, Javi? I really don't know, but there's one where all the international flights arrive, which is the George Bush International Airport, I think. And I wasn't going to arrive to that one, and I was leaving from that one. So I had to take a cab, and the cab was going to take an hour. So I was like, okay, of my 5 hours, 3 hours are gone. And then the plane in New York got delayed 2 hours, and I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna make it. And I just started sweating. And then I got to Houston, and I was saying, this is where things got really annoying. At that point in time, I had been traveling 30 hours when I got to Houston, and it was the last stretch. Like, the flight is an hour and a half to El Paso. It's like the shortest flight of the whole thing. It took 3 hours to get to from Amsterdam to Iceland. It took 5 hours from Amsterdam to Iceland to New York, and it took 3 hours from New York to Houston. In all, I was an hour and a half away from home, and I had less than 2 hours to get through to the airport, and I was in the other airport, and I just started running. And the thing is that in Holland, you only get a debit card that is only acceptable in Holland. That is bullshit. And I could no longer withdraw money from the ATMs. So the only dollars that I had were ones that I got in Amsterdam. I could no longer get dollars. I only had $50, and I had to use those $50 to get to the other airport. And the taxi driver saw me, and I told him, I only have $50. That's all the money I have. And he was like, okay, I'll take you, but it's $70. And I was like, sir, I only have $50. That is all I have. And he was like, okay, get in the cab. And I was like, oh, he's going to do it for $50. We went to the airport. Once we got to the airport, he detained me for 20 minutes because he wanted the other $20. And I wanted to kill him because I was like, sir, I told you, I don't have the money. At the end of the day, I got $10 out of a card that I didn't know had $10. Thanks to God. Thank to God. And he was like, well, you know, I could have let you go, but I have to pay my boss and this and that. And I understand. That is what I was saying about empathy. I understand that you have to do certain rules for your job. But when you see another person in a problem and you offer to help them, you're doing it for a reason. You know, like, he could tell that I was in a hurry. He could tell that I was really, really tired. I didn't look fresh, like, oh, I just came out of bed and I'm late because I want to be late. No, I looked fucking destroyed. And he was like, well, you know, I'm going to stop you even though I don't know you don't have any money. I can understand as a person that has a job and that is looking for a job and understands that you have to pay your dues when it comes to your services. But so I was in the airport and I had to pay for two huge bags that I had with me, you know, two huge suitcases. And again, I was barely on time. Barely on time for boarding. They were about to close the plane. And again, you could tell that I was really, really tired, destroyed. And the ladies were like, well, you have like 20 pounds extra. And I was like, okay, I'll pay for this. And they already took the bags away. And again, the card wasn't working, and I was like, I cannot pay. But they were already going to take the fucking bags, and they brought them back, and they were like, no, we can't. You were already going to put them on the plane. Why? Where's your sense of empathy for another human being? Not only did I have those two huge suitcases, I had a bag and a bag, like my carry-on and my backpack. And with combined, they had like 40, no, it wasn't 40, like 30 kilos. They were heavy. My bag was destroyed. My bag is still destroyed. And I was like, okay, don't worry. I will put stuff in my bag. Like, it does no longer matter. And they were looking at me like I was crazy. And she was like, well, maybe, you know, you should throw away stuff. And I was like, lady, I'm moving back home. This is stuff that I need from where I'm moving back. Like, don't patronize me like this. And at the end of the day, I did just carry all the stuff with me. And I was just running with all the stuff on the airport. And then another lady saw me while we were walking for security. And at the beginning, she was like, girl, you cannot have all that stuff in your arms because in security, because you have economy and this and that. And I know, again, she was trying to do her job, but she was one of the nicest persons that I found in Houston. And I was just like, lady, don't. I know I've done this 4 times in the last 30 hours. Do not talk to me. And actually, she realized that I was like on my last straw. So what she did is that I don't know where she produced them, but she produced 2 bags, like 2 paper bags, and she gave them to me to put the stuff that was in my arms. And she was like, don't carry that stuff. I can tell that you're going through a lot. Thank you. Then I went to security. And when I brought stuff out of my bag, one of the first things that I brought out was a pair of jeans that were very heavy. And the only idea that I had to deal with the jeans was to put them on. I was wearing like really light leggings, and I was like, where the fuck do I put the jeans? And I was like, just wear the jeans. So I was wearing the jeans. And one of the main reasons that I wear leggings whenever I go to airports is because they have no metal into them. I don't like wearing belts. I don't like wearing anything that can show in the machine because I hate it. But because I had the jeans, and they were very heavy jeans, they did come out in the machine, and they had to pat me and search me. And this one was a bit more funny than infuriating, because the lady had to keep asking for my consent. She was just like, every single patting she did, every single thing, she was like, can I touch you? And I was like, Lady, I already said yes. And the plane was like, there. And I was like, the plane is there. Let me go. Just pat me. But they were very kind. Like, people in security were very kind. And then I had to run. I could not run. I could not scream. It looked like one of those nightmares where you want to run, but you're very slow and you cannot talk. It was like that, but sadly it was real life. Because like the weight of all my stuff, I couldn't move fast anymore. I couldn't scream, like say to the security, wait, I'm here. But they did saw me, and they were like, we see. I think the guy that from security didn't realize that I could hear him, because I did listen to him while I was getting close to the gate. And he was like, I see a little girl that is dying. She's almost here. I think that's her. And then I made it. And they brought me into the plane. And I was sweating and I was dying. And now this is the most important bit that I was saying about empathy. When you see another human being suffering a lot, even if it costs a bit of rule breaking, if you have empathy, do it. And I know it sounds rich coming from me, because I was the person that was in distress. But I was sweating, I was tired. Of course, the only thing I wanted to do, just like everyone else on that plane, was to get to my destination. And I told the stewardess if she could get me a glass of water. And she was like, oh, we're about to take off. No, we weren't. We all know that it takes from 15 minutes to 30 for the plane to actually take off. And it would have taken her 10 minutes or less to go to the thingy, grab a glass of water, and bring it to me. And again, it's not like I was being like an annoying customer. I was literally about to faint because of all the excess work that I had to do in 2 hours. I was literally dehydrated. My mouth, you could see it, it was dry. I was stinky because of all, I hadn't taken a shower in a really long time. I hadn't eaten in a really long time. I looked in distress, and she was like, oh, we're about to take off. And again, I understand that it's part of the rules of your job, but why not help another person that is clearly in distress? And then when I sit down, I really, 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 honest to God, want to believe that the kid that was sitting right next to me didn't realize this, or was just like trying not to pay attention to me at all. But like, again, I was really loud when I said it because I wasn't paying attention. I was like, Miss, could I have some water, please? And she was like, no, we can't. And I was like, okay, let's just take off. And the kid, he was like sitting, and then he just went like, I have never been so angry in my whole life. I want to give that kid the benefit of the doubt that he didn't realize that he was a really young kid. But I like seeing someone take a sip of water after you ask for a sip of water and you're dying. It's one of the most infuriating things that could ever happen to you. Don't do that to another person. If you have water and you don't want to share it, you're not entitled to share it. Like, if he really didn't want to share it, it's fine. But like, don't do that to another person. don't shove in their face what they need when you're not gonna share it with them, especially when they're in distress. So what I wanted to say is that have empathy for another human being that you see in distress, even if it means that you have to break the rules for a little bit. But if it doesn't take you that much, if it helps this person be better, be more calm, do it. Have a bit of humanity and help other people, especially right now with the whole Harvey situation. I really don't have a way to donate to these people. But you know, we're neighbors with the United States, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that need a lot of help. So have a bit of empathy and humanity. If there's something that you can do to help another fellow person, do it. Don't try to stick to the rules so much. Even if you're a bit afraid, if you see someone that really needs something from you, and if it's just like a small gesture, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's as simple as a fucking glass of water. So yes, human decency, practice it.